everyone, I'm Katie. I'm the Director of Programming here at Wicked Queer, and welcome to the Women's Q&A. So excited to have our directors here from Australia, out in LA, and up in Canada to talk about their amazing films. As I had said, we were just talking before, I think this program really came together and we have a good variety of comedy and drama. And so we're gonna, dive right in and talk about it. Jessica, why don't we start with you and The Test, which had, I think, the biggest payoff of some of the shorts we've seen, and definitely, of course, did not see it coming. So can you just kind of talk about your thought process with that?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'm giving spoilers and everything, where are we assuming that people have watched the
Yeah, so we're
film when
putting
they see
these
this?
after your Q&A, but we might be putting them up beforehand to kind of get people to be interested. So yes, it would be spoiler alert teaser. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
spoiler alert.
I mean, I've gotten very good at talking around the
You
reveal,
you
so as
you're at
much
a
as
good
you
way
way.
of yeah, showing it.
But yeah, I mean, the story idea just kind of came about, as I mentioned to you before, sort of inspired by true events and certainly an experience of my own, but a lot of other experiences from friends and whatnot. When talking about relationships and being in relationships and feeling secure and strong and everything's going well, and then just one little thing can come up that seems quite insignificant or maybe inconsequential, but for the other person it's potentially a massive deal breaker. So I just basically wanted to explore the vulnerabilities that situation brings up within a relationship, and how couples kind of work their way through that. But I'm also really, really all about the lightness and the comedy at the moment, because I think, we didn't even know when we were making the film the year that was to come. So it's quite nice to have produced something that, people are watching and having a bit of a laugh and having a good time, because I think that's really important at the moment.
Totally. And what made you do it? Because obviously there were several ways you could do this, and you did it in a way where obviously we were thinking one thing, and then at the end we realized it was completely different. So what made you kind of take that path?
Yeah, because of my personal real life experience, when this tiny little thing came up, it really felt the stakes felt really, really high.
Hmm.
And a lot of people that I've talked to are in that similar situation where you kind of like, that one in particular for us, it felt like we were talking about the one thing that you think it is the whole film.
Hmm.
That's exactly how it felt, even though it obviously wasn't. But the stakes felt that high, and it really almost felt comedically high. So I think that's in the situation when we're in that, we were kind of having a bit of a laugh, but having a bit of a cry at the same time. And we're like, this feels really heavy and really big, even though it shouldn't. So that kind of sparked the idea to make it feel like it was one thing, and there's similar vibes as well, just obviously on different scales.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
definitely.
think also, a lot of lesbian couples go through both scenarios. So it just felt right to do it that way.
You are very good at not revealing what's happening.
Thanks. People watching
um,
this are going to be like, what the hell is this movie about?
awesome. All right, Vanessa, let's talk about Sam and Emma. Make all my lesbian dreams come true and tell me you guys are a couple in real life and you're like living happily ever after. And
No, sorry, I can't do that.
oh,
No.
oh, you
Just
guys were just uh, like amazing on screen. So let's talk about kind of, I guess, the overall structure and the decision making with that, because it was definitely very unique and how you had kind of the story in the beginning and then just the long kind of montage and then the end. So what was the thought process with that?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this the other day because growing up, I've always been really into like music videos and always kind of would write out a story in my head to fit a song. And I did this like from a child. I just really enjoyed putting a story to a song and doing something that had to be like visually really intense because you didn't have that auditory experience of dialogue or whatever. So for Sam and Emma, I mean, yeah, it's a 15-minute short, and I don't know, 10 minutes of it, 11 minutes of it is all montage, and it's bookended by the present day with actual sound and people talking. And it's I I really think I just kind of, when I heard the song first actually before I ever even wrote the script, and I just knew I wanted to do something to that song. It's Work by Charlotte Day Wilson. It's a gorgeous song.
It's an
And
amazing song.
I had no idea if I was even going to get the rights to it. That's like a whole other story, but I was determined and I did, but obviously, but I wrote the story kind of centered around the song, and then I just knew that I wanted to do something with music and make something more visually, um, make it more of a visual piece than anything else. Um, and so yeah, we had a lot of, I mean, it was different. I've definitely never worked on a film where it just wasn't kind of like a straight narrative in a sense of just people talking and next scene people talking. But um it was quite a marathon because we had 4 days of filming and we had mapped out about 100 shots because of that montage.
That was going to be one of my questions, as far as people watching it may not realize how difficult that actually is, because there's so many small little scenes that could even be 5 seconds, but it's a new scene, a new time of day, a new wardrobe. And so like how did all that planning go?
Yeah, tons of wardrobe and hair changes. So we prepped so well. I mean, my DP and it's like that's what we did for days and days before filming. Was we wanted to go in being incredibly prepared. And then like my script supervisor, who was basically continuity, and then my makeup artist was helping out with wardrobe. They really helped stay on top of all of those changes so we wouldn't have any issues there. But it was a lot. I mean, yeah, 100 shots in 4 days, like it was a lot. And it was just kind of like constantly like, okay, we got that, move on to the next. We got that, move on to the next. I mean, for a lot of that montage stuff, we did one take and we moved on. And we
One
were
take
able to
wonders. That's amazing.
well, we were able to also just kind of like ad lib in the moment. Like we would just, okay, this is the scene, this is what's happening. They're arguing about this, or this is the scene, they're kissing on the bed, or whatever it was, and we would just do it, and we would just go into it. And unless there was like a truly technical issue, um, we would just move on because we had so many things to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because the team was just so wonderful, I think we ended up only cutting out a couple things that we just couldn't get. But for the most part, we were able to get everything that was going to move the story forward in the direction that we needed it to. But it was a lot to only have 4 days to do that, and I'm just super proud that we did it. And but a lot of that too was, I mean, my co-star Hattie Smith. So the film is about two women who are in a relationship and they're madly in love, and they have a miscarriage, and then it's the ups and downs of what happens to them after the miscarriage. And Hattie Smith, my co-star, was just like so wonderful and professional and amazing. And it was really easy to act with her on screen. So that made it really, really great as well.
I mean, it obviously comes across on screen that I wish you
Glad.
were couples. Awesome. So Nancy, let's talk about Becca. I found your lead very, very captivating. I thought and I don't know if she's familiar to me or not, but I just thought she carried the story and was so vulnerable and really good with the comedic parts and also the dramatic parts. So I just love to know about, one, the story, and two, how did you find her?
Yeah, Amanda McQueen is incredible. She is, I'm from a comedy background, so I used to do stand-up comedy. And this is really the first film that I've ever made. First time trying out directing, and I'm so lucky to have known and met comedians like Amanda and Amelia, who's the other the co-star, through comedy. So I already knew them very well as comedians and friends, and I knew that they had an amazing chemistry with each other. And actually most of the film is improvised, most of the dialogue. So we shot in under 24 hours in an apartment, the cinematographer's apartment. Yeah. And it was just very lucky in a lot of ways. Like I was inspired by the Gothic novel Rebecca, which recently was remade again. And And so that's where the idea came from, and I kind of mapped out what would happen, and then we would go through and just kind of joke around and like try and find some dialogue. That's where like the Penn and Teller scene came from, just kind of these like absurd moments. Just came from having a really lovely, fun time together, and you know, being able to improvise and feel comfortable. So that was the most important thing for me. It was just, I'm glad it comes across because Amanda is an incredible person and so funny. And Amelia is just, Amelia's an actor more formally. Amanda is a comedian. But it just worked immediately when I watched, you know, some of the first cuts. I was like, this is amazing, and I love them so much.
So sometimes improv, I feel like, can be harder to direct depending on obviously the people that you've casted, and it seems like I mean, it comes off the dialogue comes off very naturally. And so like, did you just go into scenes and you have like a mapped out treatment of like, this is what I want, you need to start here and then you're going to end here?
Yeah, so we did a lot of talking about the characters before we shot the film, so they had a really good sense of like what kind of responses they might give or how they might react. And there were also anchoring phrases that I had written into the script for each scene. So we knew that we had to begin on this or end on this, or we knew that we had to get the point across, you know, that there's a note on the door and it's strange. You know, like there were these kind of anchors that I put into the script. And then with directing the improvisation was so amazing that I can't really take credit for that, right? Like Amanda and Amelia wrote this as much as I did, you know, because they're so funny. So like, you know, that kind of
Oh,
came
for sure, but
naturally.
they obviously need someone to guide them the way that you
Of course,
did.
yeah, but I mean, it was really like a team effort. We had those anchors, and then we were just like, it was really fun. I mean, truly, I've done a couple of other things after that, and there was like a real magic to making this short, and I think it really comes across. Like I still like watching it, which is bananas because I've had to watch it hundreds of times in editing. So
Oh, that's amazing. Kind of on the same realm, Jessica, with actors and improv. One, I loved both your actors, and how did you find them? And two, I thought some of the funniest parts were in the credits, and was some of that improv? I'm curious about that and the dialogue.
Yeah. Well, to answer your second question first, the credit scene was completely unscripted. So that was pretty much our last take of it. So we shot the whole thing in one day, and that was the last take of the day. And I said to Michaela, who plays Jo, I'm not going to call cut on this one. So where the script ends, I just want you to do whatever. And that's what we got. And I was crying. I was laughing so hard on it. I just had tears. And eventually we had to call cut because you could hear us laughing basically in the background. So yeah, none of that was scripted, but I knew that I wanted something to play around with for the credits. And it's pretty much that's one long take, and there's one bit that I had to cut out because you can hear laughter in the background. So I think that's when a title thing comes up on screen, that's just a sneaky little cut. But otherwise, that was just one long take. And there's a couple of other moments in the film that Michaela added in just because she's naturally pretty funny, and I just kind of, you know, you let them do, like Nancy was saying, you sort of let them go, and they just elevate things to a whole other level, which is great. And when I was casting the film, I was having dinner with a really good friend of mine who used to be casting director, and I'd sort of at this point hadn't had, you know, many dreams about who I'd put in it other than, oh, maybe I'll just grab some friends and we'll just make a, you know, fun little film. But he said to me, who would you ideally want in this film? Who are you thinking? And I said to him, if I could have anyone, I'm thinking like a Michaela Bannis type. And he said, I know Michaela, let me email her. And then, so he put me in touch with her, and she came on board. And then he suggested Christy Whelan Brown, who's the other actress, who's also very hilarious. And she's really quite well known in Australia as a musical theatre performer.
Mhm.
But she also does a lot of film and television, but I hadn't seen much of her comedic stuff. And he said, just trust me, go and watch one of her things. And as soon as I watched it, I rang him immediately, said, oh, you need to put me in touch with Christy as well. And she'd previously worked with Michaela, and they're good friends, so they have a really good rapport. And I think that comes across on screen as well, the fact that they know each other quite well. And so I was just incredibly lucky. And again, like, you know, Nancy was saying, I felt like my job became pretty easy once those two came on board. I just let them do their thing, and it really worked, which was great.
That's awesome. That's amazing, that casting story, that you like actually got the people you wanted to get.
Yeah.
Cool. Vanessa, let's go back to the song. And you said how you've got the rights to it. So one, how did that happen? And two, did you envision in the editing process how it was chopped up and editing to the beats and things like that, which I absolutely loved? Is that what you had envisioned initially?
Initially I actually thought that the scenes were going to be a little bit longer throughout this montage. And this is where, I mean, my editor is, and he's edited music videos together before, so he was like a really great choice for this, because he just did it so beautifully and so seamlessly to the music when appropriate. And he really thought about everything as far as like when they start to, you know, be off balance with each other and go through their struggles, then he actually starts to miss the beats in the song. And it's really kind of cool the way that he used the music to kind of edit to in that way, as far as when everything's perfect and everything's great, and then everything kind of starts to crumble and fall apart. And so it was a little bit more, the cuts were more fast paced than I anticipated, but like it worked so well. And he saw it. And also just everything that we like shot, we shot so much content that like, if we wanted to actually fit everything in, it was going to have to be like really snappy. So I ended up loving the way that it evolved over time. And yeah, as far as the song, this was a really great lesson for me, and just learning that like you don't know if you don't ask, because I was thinking to myself that it was going to be really difficult to get the rights to this song, because it's a popular song-ish, like it's played in television shows, it's played in Euphoria, it's played in Good Girls, like it's not a small song, people know this song. And I reached out to Charlotte Day Wilson's representation, and I had actually reached out to an entertainment attorney first, just to get some guidance. And she was just like, you know, she was like, I'm not telling you to lowball them, but I'm kind of telling you to lowball them, and just like tell them, hey, I'm this indie filmmaker and I don't have any money, which was true. And will you like give me the rights to this song for this much money? And it was like a super low amount. And I was just like, there's no way they're gonna say yes. And I pitched them on the idea. I told them what it was, and they said yes. And then the second part of that, though, is then that's the master use right. So then you have to get the sync right. So then I had to go to Cobalt Music, the big music company out here. And normally, whatever you pay for the master use, you pay the same for the sync. And when I talked to the lady at Cobalt, she was like, you know, normally when somebody wants like a full track, you're paying like $10,000. I'm like, well, I don't have that money. So will you give it to me for this much? And they checked in again with the artist, and she was fine with it. And I think one thing that helped too was I actually sent a rough cut of the film so they could see the film and what the music was going to be playing over. And so what would potentially have been like a $10,000 purchase, maybe more, ended up only costing me $600. And it was like, I was like, it was just a big lesson for me, and just ask, because you never know what people are going to say. And the fact that Cobalt said yes, even though they're this huge music company, and they were able to work with me as just like an independent filmmaker, was so amazing. But I do think that what really helped was being able to take that rough edit and show it to the artist. And I think that really helped sell her on it. So
Did you have a backup?
no, I didn't, and which is like really ill prepared, but I didn't. I was
Well, it worked out.
It did work out. I wanted that song so damn bad, and I did not have another plan. I figured in the end that we would probably find maybe some kind of instrumental that was going to work really well, but I just didn't see anything else fitting. So, but that ended up being the longest process. I started that process way before we started filming, and then that process ended way after we started filming. So it takes a while, but once you get it, you get it. So.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, I'm sorry. I think I got the time difference wrong.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Totally cool. I'm glad you can join. I'll just hop in. I'm going to ask Nancy a question, and I'm just going to get right to you if that works.
Okay, sure.
Nancy, I'd love to know more of the backstory of the character of Max and the relationship and what would drive someone to do this in just after her girlfriend walks out the door.
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, my inspiration for this short came after reading the novel Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. It's a Gothic novel. It was published in the late 1930s. And what struck me about that novel was the idea of the ghostly presence of an ex lingering in the apartment. And that's something that I've experienced, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced. And so I wanted to play with that idea while also kind of condensing it to an absurd point. So within like the course of an evening. I also think, I was having a lot of really important conversations about relationships this summer that we filmed that. And I wanted to explore the idea of like a small bubble of exploration within like a massive loaded long-term relationship, because we all have these moments of like, what if I just went on a date? And a lot of people have different ways of doing relationships, but I wanted to kind of combine those two, like the contemporary idea of how do you negotiate relationships now, and this like Gothic novel where there's like literally a lady ghost just like haunting the protagonist. Because I really love the idea of like traces and the swoopy handwriting, which was actually the cinematographer's beautiful handwriting, Elena Petkovic. She like, none of us had nice handwriting. We were like, we need a haunting, ghostly woman's handwriting in this novel. And so the character of Max it was largely informed by Amanda McQueen, who's the actor that played Max, because she has such like a genuine, unique kind of perspective and way of being. But it's definitely stems from this very like suspicious main character in the novel Rebecca, who is hiding something, who is kind of cagey, who's not the best partner. And so I wanted to highlight that in Max's character while making Max still likable. And I think that was really important to me, to make this really reprehensible thing that she's done, which is like, being in a closed relationship, bringing a date home while her girlfriend's gone out and they've just had a fight, but somehow you're still like, I like this person. I don't understand how.
You do, and that's totally true. And then in my mind, I'm like, well, they probably like broke up like 50 times, so like it's justified.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, welcome all the way from Australia.
Hello, I'm so sorry. I swear I checked it a billion times. I Googled EST. I thought, anyways, I'm sorry. I'm not good with time difference.
Fine. Let's talk about your movie, The Crush, another comedy we had in the program. Love to know how you thought about it and came and your filming process.
Yeah, so basically it's just slightly autobiographical. It's sort of based on me being terrible at talking to girls. So it was sort of inspired. It wasn't exactly that scenario, but
you own 500 candles.
I actually do own them now from the film. I actually do. But no, it wasn't a candle shop. It was actually a bar in real life. So less tangible things to take home, other than bad memories. No. But no, so basically, yeah, it was like autobiographical. I really wanted to tell a story that I think when you're queer, it can be really hard dating, and it can be really hard figuring out where you stand with a girl if you have a crush on them. So I kind of wanted to tell a story about rejection. I just wanted to tell a story that sort of explored that, but in a fun way, and that also ultimately makes you go away from the film being like, you know what, may as well just have the courage to conquer your crushes and get out there and keep going. Because ultimately, I think that the main character achieves her goal, even though she gets very much rejected. I feel like she conquers what she set out to do, which is ask out the crush.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions about not having a happy ending, which I liked, and you would assume very formulaically that would have been the case. So Can you go a little bit more into your decision making of not doing it that way?
Well, firstly, it's a comedy, so just you always want to catch the audience off guard. But I really like to make the audience think it's going in one way and then just like shock them and trick them, because I think it ultimately ends up being more satisfying, even though it's really disappointing not to see those two cutie pies get together. Mm-hmm. But I think it was ultimately the most satisfying ending to the film. And like I said, I there's a lot of films that have romantic endings, and I just want to be the one telling those stories about rejection. Why not?
You need those, you need those.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Jessica, another question. You put in your director's statement, as a queer filmmaker, my aim is to always present an entertaining and engaging story told through queer characters. So, and I feel like this was a lot of you guys finding stories that are relatable, no matter if there are queer characters or not. Was that kind of your goal?
It was exactly my goal. I struggle sometimes because I love a coming out story, and I love stories that are uniquely queer and about the unique struggles and challenges that we face as queer people in our relationships and in the world. But at the same time, I think now that there's more queer content in the world and there are more, more films being made, I think we can move away from those stories, keep telling those stories, absolutely. But now there's also room to tell stories that have, where the sexuality is incidental, basically, because I think that's really where representation can help with acceptance, and the wider audience and the general population can start to understand us a little better and realize that we go through all the same struggles as everyone else, and all the same experiences. So when I write a film, and don't hold me to this, because I'm sure the next film I probably make will be like really super, super gay. But I really like to make films where the characters could be any two people, any gender, any sex, any sexuality. They could be dogs and cats and all sorts of things, but the story remains the same because we're all the same, essentially.
It definitely comes across like that. Kind of on the same realm, Vanessa. One, I don't think I've really ever seen a lesbian film that really has a miscarriage in it. So this is also kind of a universal story, just happens to be with two women. Was it kind of the same vein that you wanted to do the same thing as far as?
Yeah, no, everything Jessica said is basically like exactly like every time I do a Q&A, I say that, because it's like I think the gay struggle narrative is so powerful, and it has its place, and I'll always advocate for its presence and amongst all forms of media. But I really wanted to do something that was gravitating away from sexual identity and just more towards our identity as women and just human beings. And I think that when we think about like miscarriages and that kind of loss, like losing a child, I think that, I mean, deep down, we know that it can happen to anybody, but it's very heteronormative. Like I just don't see it in queer cinema very often. And so that was important to me to kind of bring that into the conversation. But also kind of, yeah, it's about two women, but it's a love story, and then the ups and downs within this love story, and whether it's two men, two women, or a man and a woman, it's kind of all the same.
Mhm.
And so kind of same to what Jessica said, that was really important to me.
Love it. Nancy, if you had to tell me where Max and her girlfriend, or maybe not girlfriend, are right now, what would you say?
They have definitely broken up 100 more times. And they've brought Daphne in as a third.
Okay, I'd like to see this movie.
Okay, I'll make it.
Okay. Leela, let's talk about, I read in your statement that you had the initial place you were supposed to film pulled out when they found out was a story with two women. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that was a very shaking up sort of experience. And it was a bit of a shock actually, because I kind of had a little bit of a fear about that. You always go, oh, do I have to explain that this is going to be a queer movie? And then you're like, no, surely that's silly. Like, surely we're past that. But yeah, I mean, to put a silver lining to a bad situation, the shop that we ended up filming at is the shop that was responsible for all the novelty candles. So it actually made the film like a billion times better. But obviously it just emphasized how important it was to tell the story. Having that experience happen, it kind of shook me a little bit, and I was like, oh, I got a little bit razzled and was like, should I do it? Because I had never made a film that personal that kind of pretty much told the whole world that about my dating life or about my sexuality. And so it was kind of scary because it kind of wigged me out a little bit, but decided to like push through with it. And it just made me feel like the sort of story that I was telling was like warranted, because like every other filmmaker has just said, I'm really passionate as well about telling stories just about queer relationships or queer romances where it's not about your sexuality. And I guess I was worried that whenever I said I was making a queer film, people have like a sort of expectation of what that film's going to be like, when really Crush is just this really sweet little innocent film. So for a place to be like, you can't film the film there, was kind of worrying. So it just made me feel like we needed to put more normalized stories out there, so that when somebody says they're shooting a film at a certain shop, it's not like this, it's not a big deal at all. And I think the more that we make films like the ones that are in this program, hopefully people will not react like that when you say that there's going to be people of the same gender romantically involved.
Definitely. And did you find after saying that this was very personal, after being able to view it for the first time, did it feel freeing at all?
Yeah, definitely. This whole film has felt incredibly, like, it's just been an amazing experience, and we've gone to a couple of different queer film festivals, and it's just been like a pretty much a life-changing experience, being able to just open up who you are through your art, which is, yeah, I have zero regrets. Life-changing. It was amazing making it, and I think authenticity is just so important, to tell stories that are authentic to you, and they're ultimately the ones that end up meaning the most to you and probably the people that watch them.
And I wanted just to go back for the ending. Like, I think that was probably one of my favorite parts of her, like, coming back in and like, so you do date girls? Yes. And leaves, and then comes back. Are you in a relationship? No. Like, I loved that little back and forth. Was all of that fully scripted, or was any of that improv?
We definitely added in the rehearsals. We definitely, played around with improv. We had another one we really wanted to put in there that was definitely like inappropriate. I don't even know if I should say it right now, but we really wanted her to come back and be like, racist. But obviously we wouldn't put that in the film. But yeah, we definitely mucked around a lot and had a lot of fun with that. It definitely increased in the rehearsals the amounts, and that's how I genuinely work as a director. Like, in the rehearsal, we add a lot to the script when we rehearse.
And how did you find your cast?
They're like the most amazing cast ever. I work with Shabana Aziz, who's the the lead actress in it all the time, and she is going to be going places. She's amazing. She's so good.
And you also said in your statement, growing up Indian and Lebanese and queer in Australia, you rarely saw characters like yourself on screen. Is that something moving forward that will be very important to you of who you're casting in your films?
Definitely. Like everything that I make sure to cast with diverse casts. I don't think that every single project has to be like that. It's just, for me, it's an important part of the projects that I make. But in saying that, I'm trying to represent second generation, third, fourth generation immigrant children. So it's important to me to tell stories where the fact that you're from a different ethnic background is not what your character's storyline is about. So that's what I do. I just cast people. They're just stories that are not about their ethnic background. And like at the moment, I'm working on we're finishing editing a TV show pilot about Instagram famous dogs, and the two main characters are ethnically diverse.
Okay, that's amazing. And lastly, I was talking about this with Jessica before we even got on, about particularly this year, I've had in my comedy program, I think 3 or 4 films specifically from Australia, and then I have 3 comedic ones from Australia. And this, is it something that Australians are just funny people and you guys like making comedic content, or what do you think it is?
Oh yeah, we're just really funny. Yeah, we're just really cool. We're a cool gang.
Okay.
I agree.
Jessica, do you have anything in the works? I know things have been a little weird about people being able to film or anything, but do you have anything coming up?
I have some ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I have some ideas that are going to be difficult to make. So I'm trying to come up with some other ideas that might be a little bit easier and cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in the middle of writing a feature script that will star, in my dreams, Kate McKinnon and Stephanie Beatrice. So if you guys are watching, give me a call. I feel like it's
had luck before, so I just think you reach out to Kate and Stephanie.
Exactly. You got to ask, right? Kate McKinnon's going to be in Australia later in the year, so I might have to. But yeah, so I'm in the middle of writing a feature that is, I feel like almost a natural extension of the test, where it is actually about the thing that you think the test is about. The story isn't about it is kind of about the difficulties of it, but it's more a character-driven comedy again, hence the dream cast. So yeah, fingers crossed I can get that one written and moving forward.
Awesome. You've been so good not revealing what your actual short is about. It's amazing.
I'm really passionate about people seeing the film and being really thrown at the end.
Vanessa, what about you? Do you have anything coming up?
The stuff that I'm working on currently, I actually just finished writing another short about basically the insurmountable number of women in prison for self-defense, for killing their abusers. Really Disney Channel stuff. And then another short just about some personal experiences of my childhood growing up. So I'm kind of like, these 2 scripts are kind of just racing, I guess, to see what gets funded first. I'm applying for like some film grants and film fund contests and all that whole process. And working on actually a queer anthology series, working on a pitch right now for that. And yeah, those are the 3 main things that
that's it. That's all you're doing right now.
No.
Nancy, what about you? Besides working on the sequel, now that they're in a throuple.
Right. Yeah. Right. I'm on that right after this. Actually, I'm going to be directing a short that's written by Amelia Hellman, who plays Daphne in Becca. And it's kind of like a surreal psychedelic short about slowly losing your mind while you're on hold with Revenue Canada, which is the like governing tax body in Canada. We just wanted to do something fun that we can shoot in one location and kind of safely do, because we've been really wanting to collaborate with each other ever since Becca. So yeah, we're gonna be working on that this spring.
Cool. And besides your Instagram dog show, what else you got going on?
I have a couple of short films that I really want to make. One of them is about a night where me and Shabana actually got, Shabana was in a film that I didn't make, and she got I got congratulated for her performance on the film 3 times after the screening. So I'm going to make like just a reenactment of that because I think it'll be really funny. And so I want to make that short film, and then a short film about OCD potentially, because my sister has it, and we want to do like a really honest, great representation of it that helps people understand it. And then, yeah, really the big one is obviously the Instagram famous dogs. Obviously, if that could turn into a TV show, be living the dream.
I don't see how it could not. Do you guys have any questions for each other? I don't know if I know some of you have seen the program, but
I mean, I'm really excited about this OCD project. I have OCD and I've been wanting to do something with that for a while, but maybe it's easier to be like one step away from it.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to I don't really want to be the writer. I definitely would be like a collaboration, and I'd be more the director. But my sister's had a really cool idea as a way to like show it. That helps people understand what's going on actually inside everybody's brain when they're doing certain compulsive behaviors, which I think will be really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really misunderstood. So amazing. Definitely keep me posted on that. That sounds awesome.
Sure. I'll hit you up.
I'll make sure you guys should all have this. I'll be on the same email, but if not, feel free to reach out to me and I can connect all of you. And
I had a quick question for Vanessa. You went through a lot actually in a lot of detail. A lot of the questions got asked that I was going to ask you, because I was really interested to see how long it took to film Sam and Emma, considering how many shots you had. So I know you kind of went into a lot of detail about that, which was great. I'm also interested in how detailed you were in the scripting of it. Did you have every single one of those 100 shots written in the script in the order that they appear in the film, or was it more sort of a general vibe? And then in pre-production, you kind of sat down and figured out what you wanted, and then in the edit, it sort of came together that way.
So the script was written very similarly to like a music video treatment. So every kind of line had like, Sam does this, Emma does this, and very just simple, easy, because we knew that we were going to go in and obviously just kind of like ad lib from there. Mm-hmm. But there was definitely one point where I just kind of got super over it, and I had like this line that was just like, Sam and Emma kiss 10 times, Sam and Emma do this, and it was just like all truncated into one like line, and I was like, we're gonna just figure it out. So then when we sat down with the script and started breaking it down, that's when we had to go in and be like, okay, so this, like, because it's like at the very end, there's the at the end of the montage, kind of the tail end of it, it kind of like the music speeds up, and then there's just like those really, really fast cuts, and that was kind of the one line where I was just like, fast montage. And then we kind of had to break down what rooms, what was happening in each. And then my editor kind of had all that footage to just kind of like piece stuff together.
Yeah.
So most of it, like as far as the story was really laid out, but then all those really small moments, especially at the end, we kind of just had to figure out together, verbalize.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Amazing. You guys have any other questions?
Well, I appreciate your shorts, so like I
have till the end of the month.
I'm gonna do it tonight, and then I'm gonna reach out to all of you. So
have to the end of the month. So definitely watch the program. If you guys need any recommendations, let me know. And in the future, when you guys have your films done, just reach out to me. And we'd love to have you guys back. We really love having alumni. And I love having
me.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. You guys are welcome. Thank you.